Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to the latest edition of the We Can't Wrestle podcast. This week on the show, I got together with Mark Brew, my brother Aaron, and Kyle Army to discuss Terry Funk and to discuss Bray Wyatt, whom, as you all know, this past week we both tragically lost. The initial 15 minutes or so of this episode, we had some terrible audio issues, so that first 15 minutes is a little cut up. A little choppy. You might hear some echo. We regrouped, and the last part of the show is definitely much better audio quality-wise. I just wanted to apologize for the audio quality of the first few minutes of this show. But here we go. I think it's appropriate that we have this tribute to both Terry Funk and Bray Wyatt. So here you go with the latest edition of the We Can't Wrestle podcast.
Oh.
So I think what we'll do is we'll start out here by discussing Bray Wyatt, and then we will discuss obviously the legendary Terry Funk. But
it's been a minute,
well, and there's a couple I want to say about this, and then you guys can elaborate as well. And anybody that knows me, listens to this show, Aaron and Kyle, know from the very beginning, from Florida Championship Wrestling, when they first came up with that character, I was so intrigued by that character. And I think, and not that it was a direct ripoff, but I think it was because at first it was mostly because, to be honest with you, back in 1995, young Nate was a fan of the Waylon Mercy character. And again, I know they're not the same, but it was very reminiscent of the Waylon Mercy character. And the way that Wyndham carried himself as that character really intrigued me. But I want to tell a funny story really quick before we get into his career and his contributions to modern wrestling. All right. The year is 2013. Back then, I wasn't streaming yet. This is still, I still watching Raw on cable live. This is going to sound super selfish. But the night that Bray Wyatt and the Wyatt family debuted on Raw, we knew they were coming. The vignettes were there. And they actually debuted by attacking Kane, if you guys remember.
Yep.
Well, shit you not, I'm so excited. And my wife's like, those Wyatt people that you like, that you are so intrigued by are going to be on tonight. I'm like, I know, I'm so fucking excited. I hadn't been excited for anything on Raw since fucking the summer of Punk. But anyway, so I'm excited for the Wyatt family to show up. And then, while the show's going on live, lo and behold, tornado warning. Not even for my county. But they break in with a weather alert while the fucking Wyatt family is debuting on Monday Night Raw, and I was so pissed. Someone might have lost their home that night, but I lost my opportunity to see this act that I'd wanted to see for so long debut on Raw. Actually debut on Raw.
It's been very weird last couple because we're used to this. We're used to this. We've seen Eddie, we've seen Chris, we've seen Owen.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. It never gets easier, especially like I said, we'll get into Terry Funk. But the man was in his late. You're talking about a guy 36 years old.
That makes it so much tougher. And also, let's be honest, he was probably the modern pro wrestling. He was probably the most intriguing character in WWE. Period. The whole time he was there.
You put my earbud in, Nate, to try to maybe get away from the echo. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Like I said, the other problem is it's unexpected. We woke up to the news of Terry Funk passing away, and then in our group chat, we hear Bray passes away. And then you hear about everything that's happened with it and why.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough, man. It's tough.
A buddy of mine at work, like I was like throwing shit in the fucking baler, and this guy I know at work, he's a wrestling fan too, but he stopped me. He's like, "Hey man, what do you think about the Bray Wyatt shit?" And um, can I be like open about what I want to say?
Yeah.
Honestly, when I first heard it, and I put it in our chat, like I thought like a 36-year-old guy doesn't just naturally fucking die. At least normally. And it might sound stupid when I say this. It's like I'm almost glad that he fucking died of a heart attack.
Yeah, because at first you kind of
That makes
wonder.
sense. Yeah, like I like they were like, oh, undisclosed health condition. Well, to me, mental health is a health condition. So I thought this guy's whatever, but I'll get away from that. What I told my friend was that dude was. I didn't realize that he was only 36 years old. Okay, I'm 40. Nate, you're what? 57.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah,
I'm 36,
kidding
man,
you.
so it hit me fucking hard. It was
But
like, fuck, dude. Like,
but what I'm getting at is that dude, and I'm not gonna go out and say that he's my favorite wrestler of all time or whatever, but he did a lot of shit and made a lot of moments in a very quick time. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Like, he's only 36 fucking years old, and guys like Big Show and John Cena and Rock are like, oh my god, this guy was fucking great. You know what I mean?
but let's put it out there for what it is. It's because of him that the WrestleMania during COVID was watchable. I mean, you look back on it, and it's the Boneyard match, and it's the Firefly Funhouse match.
And I wasn't gonna try to like talk about it too much because I'm not a huge COVID during COVID wrestling fan, but he's and I'm not gonna say anything out of school because you guys know this. He's the only dude that ever did a cinematic wrestling match that I enjoyed. Like I hated the Boneyard match, and I hated fucking the Swamp Thing match and all that shit. But I really liked the one with him and John. Like that was fucking entertaining, and it was because it was funny, and it has some deep cuts in it and shit like that. Like I enjoyed that, and the only reason that I can't talk too much about him is just because I think like the body of his character happened in that COVID era, and that wasn't something that I liked. And that's not knocking him. I'm just saying like I think that's where the majority of his storylines were at.
Well,
But
and then you think
the dude was a fantastic mind for the business.
I tell
But
everybody of
go
everything
ahead.
that
Sorry.
that he has done over the last, however long. The thing that I recommend to people to go watch is when he returns back on SmackDown. He comes out, and there's a look on his face, and you can tell he knows he has that crowd.
Mr. Brew, what are your thoughts on Bray Wyatt?
He's just one of the guys that really understood that in order to succeed, that your character has to evolve, and he understood actual ring psychology, and just watching him over the time frame that we got to see him, he'll captivate you even if you weren't a fan at first. You continue watching, and Bray Wyatt's gonna make you a fan.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. I don't know. Behind the scenes, folks, we had to restart our recording over again. So I don't know if I made this point before we had to cut it off because of the echo or not. But I look at Bray because I don't look at Randy, even though he's wrestled, Randy Orton, even though he's wrestled into this generation. I look at him as a wrestler from the previous generation, the John Cena and him and all that. For me, as far as knowing his character, knowing the psychology, knowing what, you know what I mean? Bray was that guy of his generation. And again, I was just enamored by his character. I love the gimmick. He put, no matter what you can say about the creative, maybe there were questionable creative from Vince McMahon and stuff, but no matter what they gave him, he made the most of it. And he made, he did, and I'm not comparing him to The Undertaker, but he did a lot of what The Undertaker did. He took that character, and no matter what they were giving him, he made the absolute fucking most of it.
Well, we come to find out now that, Taker was instrumental in his career. Like, he was there for a lot of it, helping him to kind of guide him to be that next guy. And, it's very, ever since the news broke yesterday, like I said, of course, I've constantly been looking at websites and, trying to, because, like Aaron said, a guy at 36 years shouldn't drop dead like that. That shouldn't happen. And then, you come to find out that it's because of supposedly the reports that at this time is that due to COVID, it hurt some. He had a heart condition.
It exasperated his already the heart condition that he already had.
So, and like I said, for a lot of fans, man, who've been watching the last couple of years, this is their first time going through something like this, losing somebody that you watched every week. We've gone through it a lot. I mean, my God, unfortunately, this business is one that it's tough on people's lives. And the saddest part is that he has children and a wife, and
yeah, I mean, if you think about it, he's the first one of his generation. Because I mean, they did it for Dusty and they did it for Piper, but they were older. But he is the first one of his generation that we've had to watch the wrestlers out on the stage getting a 10-bell salute.
Yep.
Yeah,
it was Hunter's first. It's one of Hunter's kids,
Yeah.
Like, fuck, man, it's tough, and my heart goes out to any fans of Bray Wyatt, because, man, like I said before, we've watched Owen, we watched Eddie, we watch, it's tough, and
then,
like the thing I was saying before break, real quick, a lot of there's a lot of naysaying on what WWE should have done, shouldn't have done for a memorial show, but I hearken back to the night that Owen passed away, and it was, if we can send Stone Cold out there to give the fans a happy moment after what they just experienced, why wouldn't you do that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and real quick, and then I'll let you guys say more. But I wanted to get it out while I was thinking about it. Like I said, I haven't watched SmackDown yet, just because. I just haven't, but I watched last night I watched the 10 bell, and I watched the tribute video on YouTube. And what really, really got me in the emotion wise through all of that was when you start seeing the picture of him with his wife and with his kids.
When he's sitting there brushing his daughter's hair, fuck.
Oh yeah. Got me right in the fucking feels, man. Like it's so, that's the saddest part. Obviously, for us as wrestling fans, we lost a wrestler. We lost somebody that we watched on television. Those kids lost their dad. That woman lost her husband. It's just that's the real of the situation. And I'm not demeaning anybody that was his friend. that is sad that he's gone now. I understand that too. It was very classy of them to have Eric Rowan on the show.
Yes.
But just when you think about the fact that he, it's not like it's like Owen. It's not like he was the father of grown children and he was an older man. These are young kids that are now going to have to grow up without their dad. And it really sucks.
I don't know if you guys are a fan of or listen to like the Cultaholic podcast and stuff, but of course, their news. And one of them brought up something that was really good.
Who'd they ever beat?
They said that his one child wasn't young enough, or is too young to even really know Bray. And they said at least there's all this stuff that they can go back and they can show them. This is your dad.
Mm-hmm.
This is what your dad did. God, the amount of footage they probably have.
Yeah, definitely a loss for a generational loss, losing Bray. And did you guys have anything else to say before we move on to the Funker?
I kind of do. I like Nate. You talked about Randy, and you were like, "Oh, Randy's a generational talent or whatever," and he is. Okay, Randy's the fucking man. You know what I mean? And I know he's hurt right now or whatever, but I kind of look at it this way that I don't want to like shit on the cinematic matches or whatever, but Bray Wyatt got over with Randy Orton, John Cena, and The Undertaker. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he's a generational talent. They see this guy as somebody.
And
this guy is one of us.
These three guys were. This is John Cena, Randy Orton, and The Undertaker. And they were like, this guy's the fucking man. And did you see it's only like a 2-minute clip where like AEW is in England right now because they're doing their Wembley show or whatever. Did you see that shit where that guy was interviewing Big Show about Bray?
Yeah.
It's like, even that guy's been doing it since 95. And all these guys are just like, this guy was the fucking man. Like,
not to interrupt you, Aaron, but if you guys get a chance, Booker T was doing his show, like recording his show live, and they were talking about Terry Funk when the news broke. And it's very surreal to watch because he gets the news like live, and I again, just to see the amount of shock and love that people had for the man. But go ahead, Aaron. Sorry.
I was just saying, like, there were guys that are superstars that were superstars before Bray that I honestly think they thought this guy's the fucking man and he's gonna bring it to the next level, and he's gone now. And it sucks. And it's like you said, Nate, and I told my buddy this at work. It's like, this guy's 36 fucking years old and he's got 4 kids and a wife. It's fucking nuts. And for every wrestler, it's like, oh, and I don't mean it to be this way, but for every wrestler to be like, oh, we lost our friend. Those kids lost their fucking dad. And even more than that, it's like Mike Rotunda lost his kid. Like, I couldn't imagine that.
No, I'm
I have no children, but I couldn't imagine being like, oh shit, I gotta put my kid in the fucking ground.
Seth had a really cool like thing or whatever where he was talking about when Brody passed away, and he was talking to Bray about it, and Bray told he's like, hey, he's like, make sure you go home, you hold your youngins, and he's like, that's what I'm gonna go do. And I mean, that's the key of this is, man, you never know, just like that. And if nothing else, that man showed you what it was like to capture every moment and live for it.
Absolutely, and it's two different types of losses, and it's two different types of stories. Because, like I said, to me, again, we as fans and the people that were his friends that lost Bray, it's sad, but it's super sad with him being a young father and husband.
Yeah.
So the next man we're going to talk about,
Mark Brew looks like a Talking Heads video.
The only other thing I had to say about him, Nate, was that last night I gained a lot more respect for LA Knight than I already enjoyed him, but that promo that he cut, that shoot promo, bro, like I gained a lot more respect for LA Knight with that, especially at the end where he said, "A wise man once told me, the next time you see me, run." Bro, I got chills.
Good shit, pal.
It was. There's a reason why that man is the future of this company. Like LA Knight is going to, but that's neither here nor there. I think you're going to segue into talking about the Funker.
I am, and I have a statement to make. And then we will discuss the life and times, and especially our fandom. I mean, you can go to Wikipedia and look up what Terry Funk did. I mean, if you're not stupid, you know what Terry Funk did. But I'm just saying, I'm not here to give anybody a history lesson on the career of Terry Funk, because we all watched it happen from before I was born until now. I want to say real quick before we start talking about Terry Funk, who of course we lost this week as well, the day before we lost Bray. I always talk about who my favorite wrestlers are, and Terry Funk is in my top 5. Obviously my personal favorite pro wrestler of all time is Randy Savage. Then there's Bret Hart and Kurt Hennig and Shawn Michaels. That's just my personals, okay? But whether or not my personal favorite, and again, he's in my top 5, so he's pretty much up there. There is a case to be made that Terry Funk might be the best to ever do it. And I know there's people out there to be like, what, Ric Flair? I don't know, man. Terry Funk might be the best to ever do it.
So, like SmackDown, they did a really cool thing where they had Cody come out and talk about Terry Funk, and then they proceeded to have a hardcore match in Terry Funk's honor, and I was like, you kind of missed the point, because as hardcore as Terry Funk was, it wasn't beating people over the head with a trash can. The man was a fucking outlaw, one of the last outlaws. He was a fucking cowboy. Terry Funk was that fucking rough, I will beat you. You fucking egg-sucking dog.
I'll say Terry is in my I think I've said it before on the show. He's in my top 3 or 5. I don't want to say, oh, Terry's not the greatest of all time because we're talking about him, but he's up there, but he's not my number 1 of all time.
Terry Funk is one of those wrestlers. He may not be your number 1, but on anybody's top 10 list, he's gonna have a spot.
Oh yeah. Like I'm not gonna knock anybody if they tell me, oh, Terry Funk's my favorite wrestler of all time. I'll be like, cool, dude. But I'm gonna
Right.
put him before, or put him behind like Kurt, Harley, and Savage. You know what I mean? But Terry, I will say this, is in my top 1 or 2 most believable wrestlers of all time.
Yeah.
If that
Well,
makes
here's the
sense.
thing about it. There's been so many great and cool fucking pro wrestlers over the years. How do you pick just one? You can't. That's why we have like top 10s. Because I mean, you know what? You know what's a great Terry Funk moment? If you can find it, it's really hard to find. But him and Austin right before the Rumble in '97, they're doing a shotgun Saturday night, and Austin's on commentary, and Funk's in the ring, drunk off his ass. He's like, "I'm looking for a Rumble," and Austin's sitting back there, and he's like, "Well, you don't have to look very far, old man." And their exchange, like you don't see shit like that anymore. You don't see like Terry Funk was a pro wrestler. He wasn't a fucking sports entertainer. He wasn't a superstar. He was a fucking pro wrestler. When pro wrestling was smoke-filled armory buildings, when people actually fucking believed that this was real. People got stabbed. Because, I mean, people's cars got set on fire.
Mark, really quick, your first short thoughts of Terry Funk, because then I'm going to go into a little bit of what I was saying, because I've been thinking a lot about this all week, and I'm going to go into a little bit of what I'm saying, and then I'll let you guys just however you want to express your love for Funk. You can go through memories, you can go through whatever you want, but you just your first little snippet on what your opinion is of the Funker.
Well, previous episodes when we were doing our favorite matches and stuff, I really, really enjoyed him and Foley whenever he was Chainsaw Charlie.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know why, it was cool as shit to me.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Because Mark, how old are you?
I'm
Sorry?
33.
There's a lot of people that didn't know about Funk until he got hooked up with Cactus in the WWF.
Right.
And nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, but like
and that Chainsaw Charlie shit was awesome. I didn't mean to speak over you, brother.
Oh,
sorry.
You're good. But like that, whenever he come out that damn wooden box with that chainsaw, bro, that shit it was over with me.
Fuck.
It was like, what the fuck is this? And then he comes out, and I mean, it's obvious it's Terry because he's got the pantyhose over his head. But I mean,
yeah, Cornette told the story this week on his podcast because they were talking about Terry Funk, and he said that that whole thing, there's conjecture about. I'm pretty sure that they've lo and behold it's come out over the years that was actually Terry's idea to be Chainsaw Charlie, but Cornette said that he's like, well, I mean, they did the Funk in a box thing. They did, he came out of the box, and Cornette told Kevin Dunn, I mean, the minute he comes out of the box, people are gonna know it's Terry Funk. And Kevin Dunn's like, no, this is a different audience. These people don't know who Terry Funk is. And then Cornette's like, it is sure as shit. He saws himself out of the box. And the minute he comes out walking around hobbling like Terry Funk, the people start going, Terry. He's like, fuck Kevin Dunn. But anyway, I want to make my case here for what I said before. And then, like I said, I'll let you guys just do your own thing as far as Terry Funk goes. But I said at the beginning when we started talking about him, Randy Savage is my personal favorite wrestler of all time. But I think that Terry Funk might be the greatest to ever do it. And here's why I say that. I'll start from the beginning. Came through his father's territory, obviously. The Texas rough and tough style, you know, the tough and rumble Texas style. Became the NWA champion just like his brother. And there was that Terry Funk. 1970s. He, as a matter of fact, loved his wife so much that they were having problems in their marriage when he was NWA champion, and that's the reason he lost the belt. Because he said, I need to fix my marriage because I love this woman. So not only was he a great wrestler, obviously a great man too, because he gave more of a shit about his wife and his children and his life at home than he did about the business. Although we know by the way that his body was that he also loved the fucking business. So then you go through the 70s, and again, this is a lot of stuff I didn't see because I wasn't born yet. I've seen it retrospectively, but that's one Terry Funk. Then we come into the 1980s, and some of my favorite pro wrestling ever to happen, and Aaron and I talked about this on Reliving the Extreme this week. Some of my favorite pro wrestling to ever happen is Terry Funk in Memphis. Terry Funk with Jerry Lawler in the empty arena match. Terry Funk cutting a fucking promo, pouring motor oil over his head. Just being crazy ass, unique Terry Funk. Like nothing you've ever seen. And then there's that Terry Funk. And then you come into the mid-80s. He comes into the WWF. He has a great match on Saturday night's main event with Hulk Hogan. There's a reason they put him with the Junkyard Dog when he was there, because at that point, that was the person that was actually going to get some good shit out of Junkyard Dog every night. So then he leaves the WWF because his horse is sick, quote unquote. God bless Terry Funk. and that now he's back. You know, he winds up back with the NWA. And then he gives us a whole new Terry Funk, probably the best shape he was ever in. And he does one of the greatest feuds of all time, with Ric Flair for the NWA title with the I Quit match and everything that subsequently happened through that, the angle they shot after the Steamboat match. And it's some of the greatest I know people rave about Steamboat and Flair. Steamboat and Flair were fan-fucking-tastic together. But actually, if you ask me, 1989, I like the Funk feud better. Okay? So then you go, that Terry Funk. Then, here comes Terry Funk in this upstart promotion, ECW, reinvents himself, and literally a brand is created around this fucking man. Because he is not selfish. He is innovative. He is unique. He is one of the greatest to ever do it. And he teaches an entire roster of fucking misfit toys about the business. And he does nothing selfish. And he's as good as he's ever been. And then Chainsaw Charlie. Then he goes to the WWF during the Attitude Era and captivates fans like Mark, who are younger fans at that time. You know, you're 12 years younger than me. In real time, I saw so much more Terry Funk than you did, but it's awesome that you at your age can say, I got to experience some Terry Funk myself.
Right.
You know, and just and let me throw in just one last thing. Don't even get me started on who the most over American babyface. I'm not talking about Fred Blassie as a heel. The most over American babyface in the history of Japan was. Japanese people, Terry Funk is a fucking messiah. Terry Funk is a god in Japan. And he was completely different over there too. All the different, and I know I've been very long-winded here, but all the different faces of Terry, all the different eras of Terry, all the things Terry gave to the business, and the changes that he made, and the way that he was willing to adapt, and the generations he was willing to adapt to and able to, I really do think he's the greatest to ever do it. And Caveman Lawyer has made his case. I'm sorry. I feel very passionate about, I don't know that you can lay out a case for someone better to ever do it than Terry Funk.
Well, you know, Funk who, like, okay, so imagine this. Imagine you have a fucking a champion who has been a heel for the longest time, who comes out and says, I'm the limousine riding, jet flying, kiss stealing, wheeling dealing, I'm better than you, I wear $5,000 shirts. How do you make that guy a good guy?
Put him against the best fucking bad guy.
And all he had to do was put Ric Flair through a fucking table, and those people thought, "Oh my God, Terry Funk killed Ric Flair."
I'm sorry, I didn't want to cut you off,
No.
Kyle. But it's also funny that on that Cornette podcast, I'm talking about another. But anyway, I just love his stories. He's like that night at that Clash of the Champions was one of those times where Cornette and the Midnight Express were on the outs with WCW. So he was gone at the time for like 3-4 months or whatever. And he's like, and I'm watching this on TV, and I see that Terry's a special guest, one of the special guest judges, and blah, blah, blah. And then he gets in the ring. And he's like, and I was so mad. I'm like, like he knew it. He knew the minute Punk got in the ring. He's like, they're shooting a fucking angle. They're shooting a fucking angle. And he was so disappointed that he wasn't there for it. Oh, they're shooting a fucking angle. Like he knew before anybody else did. Oh, I know what's going down here. But yeah, when Terry's like, oh, I was just kidding about going on ahead and challenge you for the title and blah blah blah.
I like talking about corny. I like that story where he's like, talking about Funk doing the moonsault, and he's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Am I alive?"
Yeah.
Yeah. Like he talked about when Funk hit the first moonsault, and Corny said he was sitting outside, and Funk went to hit that moonsault, and he's like, "Terry, what the fuck are you doing?" He was just like, "I don't know," and he just did it. Like, how do I want to say it? Terry Funk is a generational talent, and
he's actually one of the few multi-generational talents.
He's a guy that had no, I don't want to say it, like he had no, like he didn't have like I need to be the guy. You know what I mean? Like I don't need to be the guy that's drawing the money. I want to create the guy that's gonna make you the money. You know what I mean? Like Nate, you and I are doing Reliving the Extreme, and we're talking about ECW. There's so many guys in that ECW locker room that if it would have been for Terry, it wouldn't have happened. You know?
And here's the thing I want to say. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to cut you off, but the biggest thing I can say for Terry Funk is you name me one time that he has ever bitched about any of the injuries that he's suffered, that he's bitched about any company that he's worked for. The man went in, he did his job, doesn't bitch, doesn't gripe. And I mean, if you watch Beyond the Mat, you can see how much fucking pain the man's in. Goddamn, he's sitting there talking to the guy, and he's like, if I don't have the surgery, how long can I wrestle after this? He's like, you shouldn't be able to fucking walk on it now.
Yeah, you shouldn't even be able to walk right now. I mean, what do you mean how much longer are you going to be able to wrestle? You should be in a wheelchair.
He's a man's man. Like
we could talk about Florida, we could talk about NWA, and we can talk about all that shit. But let's talk about Terry as a kid. Me being the age that I am, I'm 40 now. My first viewing of Terry Funk was like 94, and it was watching him attack Dustin Rhodes at that fucking Slamboree or whatever. And or Spring Stampede, whatever it was, and it made me look like, how do I say it? Terry Funk was the first guy that made me want to look back into wrestling history. If that makes sense.
And Terry Funk was one of those guys too that, like, if you watch late WCW, there is a feud between him and Norman Smiley and Ralphus that, you know what, it's not bad.
Oh, that's the match where they're like, oh, take a left, walk down the hallway and take a left at the Doritos. And he's like, oh, there's the Doritos.
I mean, that goddamn, just talk about taking shit. Like, for you fans and people, like, Ralphus was in a catcher's outfit, and that was the big surprise. And they were able to get it over.
But it's because he was the fucking best. He can make any goddamn thing work. Anything. Like, Terry Funk is not, and I'm not in any way, shape, or form taken away from his promo ability. He was a great promo being Terry Funk as a promo. But Funk's Grill, and when they wanted to make him a color commentator, he wasn't good at that. But he made the best of it, and he was still entertaining. He wasn't a good color commentator, but he did it. He did a good job being a color commentator, even though he wasn't good at it. It wasn't even what he wanted to be doing. You know what I mean?
No. And that's the thing about it. And then again, like I said, you can't say enough about the fact that the man was able to give back to help a CW. I mean, to see Stevie Richards talk about the fact that he, like, tells Terry, he's like, I don't even think I should be in this match. And fucking Terry's like, oh, I don't understand why you not. He's like, I think you're better than me. The fucking Stevie Richards is like, what?
But I mean, if you talk about passing it on and being a guy that's, you know, giving to the business. If you haven't read it yet, folks, you should go read the pretty much the day after post on social media, because obviously, with as close as they were, the first post from Mick Foley on social media was very quick and to the point. You know,
Yep.
You want to collect your thoughts. But if you have not read his post about Terry, that was either from yesterday or today, I can't remember. I read it today, but I don't know when it was actually from. His longer post about his relationship with Terry. Go read that, because that'll get you in the feels. He's, you know, and that's a guy that, you know, Terry passed so much on to Mick and did so much for him. And Mick is, you can just tell how appreciative of he is and how much he loved Terry Funk.
Think about it.
And,
Even in 06 or 07, Funk was Terry and Mick were still telling stories. Like,
yeah,
that whole story of Mick trying and Edge being like the hardcore and having Dreamer and Funk back.
One of, like, literally one of my favorite behind the scenes moments from any of the from any of the documentaries that were ever done of behind the scenes stuff is on Beyond the Mat, when Mick and Foley are just Mick Foley and Terry Funk are just sitting back there.
Yep.
And, you know, he does the whole, it's so funny because the better friends you are, the better you are in the ring together, the more you beat each other up. The more you beat each other up, the better friends you are, because the more money you're making, and blah, blah. And you can just see their love for each other as they're sitting there. Just these two guys who go out there every night and just beat the ever-loving fuck out of each other.
I mean, think about it. Like,
I blew you up in Nakamura or whatever.
The best moment in that match is when fucking Terry hits fucking Mick in the face, and Mick rolls out. And he's like, I don't want to be here anymore.
oh yeah, on the one night stand.
Yeah. He's like, I don't want to be here anymore.
What was I thinking?
Oh.
But yes, a very solemn week in professional wrestling. But it's good to tell the stories like that and laugh about it and smile about it because, like I said at the beginning of the show, I think before you guys even got to join me, the difference here, it's kind of like two different kind of things. Like the Bray Wyatt loss is much more, to me, it's much more solemn just because he was so young, and like we said, the wife and the kids and the family. Whereas Terry's, it's sad and we lost a fucking legend and et cetera, et cetera. But at his age, with his length of career, the good thing is when you talk about him, even though you're sad that the guy's gone, it's more of a celebration, if that makes sense. Whereas with Bray, it's a little more depressing. It's a little more. It's just, I don't know. Does what I'm saying make sense to you guys? Like,
absolutely, because everything we have heard from the last 2-3 months has been, oh, Bray's coming back soon. He's about to make his comeback, and then all of a sudden, just like out of nowhere, it on a show for Terry Funk. We're like, dude, we should really do. And then was it you, Aaron, that broke it? You're like, well, it's looking like Bray Wyatt passed away, and I was like, what? And sure enough, and it's just like, and as the details come out and more, it's just like, and you almost feel bad for Terry because I don't want to say overshadowed, but like,
well, I mean, like I said, it's kind of two different things. Just because, again, I'm not in any way, shape, or form demeaning the fact that a man passed away. It's very sad that Terry Funk passed away, and it's sad for his family and his friends and all of us as fans. But he was a 79-year-old man.
Yeah.
So when he passes away, when he passes away, when somebody at that age passes away that has the legacy he does, that has the career that he did, again, like when we were talking, if you notice, when we were talking about Terry, we had a lot more smiles and we had a lot more, you know what I mean? And because you're celebrating a life. Whereas with Bray, it's more tragic, I guess. We haven't
brought up the fact that Bob Barker passed away. But you know what? If you make it to 99, at that point, I don't feel bad when you pass.
Goddamn,
you lived a good one, buddy.
At that point, he's probably like, I keep asking for death, but
the price is wrong, Bob.
I did see somebody that said something that I thought was really funny. So I'm over $1. He got right at 99.
Yeah, he got right under $1.
Hell yeah.
So first of all, I want to apologize to our listeners for the audio from the beginning of this episode. We had some technical issues with some echoes for the first 15 minutes or so. I apologize for that, and I will do my best to edit to make it sound decent. This last bit has been fine, and that I'm thankful for that because I'm glad we got to have this conversation. Before we wrap up, I'll go around the horn here. I'll go around the table. Final thoughts on both Bray Wyatt and Terry Funk. Mark Brew, we'll start with you because you get in the room with the three of us. We dominate the conversation, and you don't get to say much.
Yeah, and I'm not rude. I don't like to cut.
We're fucking blowhards. Just say it. It's true.
But yeah, it's tragic about Bray. I was a fan. I really like Aaron wasn't so much of a fan of the Fiend stuff, but I really thought that was cool as hell. Just because of the whole time that Bray was his character, you know what I'm saying? And throughout every character he's done, he's always been this kind of, dark entity. But knowing what we know now, it's because it was the complete opposite of what he actually was. He was actually a beacon of light for a lot of people. And when I read Becky Lynch's post about him, it kind of hit, the frog in the throat, because you could just tell
I didn't see that.
friends.
I didn't see that. What did she say?
She was just talking about that he always had time for other people, and that he was selfless and stuff like that. And she called it when she at the end. She didn't even call him Bray. She called him Hoot. I'm assuming that was something between them. So I was like, it was you could tell hers was genuine. Like they were really friends.
Miro had a really good one too, where he was talking about how he was like one of like the extras, like when Bray was like there or whatever, and he took something for Bray like in the ring. Everybody else would have forgot me. When I finally made it to Raw, like Bray was the first one to walk up and be like, "Hey man, you fucking made it! Like congratulations!" And
it's cool as shit,
Yeah.
And as far as Funk goes, he's gonna ride off on that steel horse with a Marlboro in his fucking mouth and still be that bad motherfucker that he was.
As funny as it is, as funny as well, and I know I'm letting you guys have your thoughts, but you brought that up. As funny as it is, you know what when you say that, you know what I picture Terry going off into the afterlife as?
What's that?
And I don't know why, but it's just because all the time he's Terry Funk, Terry Funk, Terry Funk, the legend, hardcore, in the ring. But there's that scene in Beyond the Mat where he looks so vulnerable, where he's walking away because they're in that parking lot or whatever, and he kind of trips in a pothole. And like, it's just like, that's what I see. You know what I mean? That's the exterior down. That's he I don't know. But Kyle, your final thoughts on both of these great performers.
Their body of work will be remembered throughout the annals of time. If we could all be so lucky to have moments like they had, where for a person that lived for that they were able to achieve that. If nothing else, take a lesson from how these men were in life and see how you could take those and put it into your own life. Because honestly, I mean, you don't want to say a hero, but like they were good dudes who worked hard, who treated people right.
And that's one of the strange things about them passing away a day apart is when you really think about it, the impact that Terry Funk made on people around him and the business around him in his 79 years on this planet. And then the impact that Bray made on the business around him and the people around him in only 36 years on this planet it's pretty ironic. You know what I mean? Just these two guys that obviously everybody fucking loved, that gave, that lifted up other people instead of knocking them down. Just Bray Wyatt was a Terry Funk kind of fucking guy, if that makes sense, you know. Right. And it's so ironic that they passed away, you know. And I'm not saying Bray Wyatt's Terry Funk of his generation. You guys know what I'm saying, though. It's just like he's a Terry Funk kind of fucking guy.
Unfortunately, there's few of them left. I mean, that's the unfortunate part. But if nothing else, I don't want to sound morbid when I say this, but it can come at any moment. Whether you're 87, you're 99, or you're 36, it can come. So embrace each day, live it to its fullest.
Yes.
Hug those that you love. Tell them that you love them, because you may not get the chance. If nothing else.
And I guarantee you, if you hug your kids and tell them you love them out of nowhere, right now they're going to go, Dad, because mine did. But they're definitely going to appreciate it later in their life.
Yeah, so. when you get older and you do go, they're gonna cherish those memories.
Aaron, your final thoughts on Bray Wyatt, Terry Funk?
My final thoughts on Bray Wyatt is that I wouldn't say that he's a Terry Funk, and that's not disrespecting him. Okay, what I'll say about him is that and this is going to be high praise too, even though this guy's a complete kind of trash bag. I think Bray Wyatt, creatively, was the Jake Roberts of his generation.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
really do think that. And I never knew the man, obviously, but I'm just talking as a talent. I think he's the Jake Roberts of his generation. And Terry Funk is not the guy that I'd say is the GOAT, but he's pretty goddamn close. That's what I'll say. And and that's not disrespecting Terry Funk at all. Okay, like I'm not trying to like be disrespectful to him at all. But if it was like if you tell me like A1, A2, like okay, Kurt Hennig A1, Terry Funk A2, Terry Funk A1, Kurt Hennig A2. Okay, that's my personal opinion. Just personal opinion. That's how I feel about it. The only other thing else so does that sound okay with Terry Funk and Kurt Hennig? Because that's my opinion. They're the two greatest professional wrestlers to ever live. Is Kurt Hennig and Terry Funk.
I get what you're saying. The thing that I don't want lost on the fact the man wrestled for 50 fucking years.
I know,
In some
and
way,
I'm not saying it because even then I could say, oh, Bobby Heenan's up there. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, now you're going to compare Bobby Heenan to Terry Funk or whatever. Like, there's a lot of
Terry Funk may not be the top legend, but he is a legend. He will go down in history.
Oh, no. I'm not saying he's not at all.
No, I'm not
just saying.
I'm saying I get what you're saying. He is one of those guys that I don't know. I don't look at like Ric Flair's the greatest of all time. I look at guys and I'm like, no, these guys were the greatest of all time. It's like bands. How can you sit there and say to somebody pick the Beatles and Led Zeppelin? Who really is the best? It's subjective.
Which on our next We Can't Wrestle podcast after this tribute show, we're gonna do top 10 lead singers of bands. And Kyle, I want you to be on that because you're the only one that's an actual musician out of all of us. But the only other thing I'll say, like I said, I think Terry Funk is in my top 3 wrestling performers of all time. But the only other thing I'll say at the end of this show is not trying to like sound stupid or whatever, is if anybody has any kind of like mental issues, Jesus Christ. Did you hear that, Nate?
Nope.
Yeah. big fucking gunfire over there.
Oh boy.
I was just trying to get. I was gonna get deep for a minute, and some fucking shit just happened. Never mind.
Well, I will wrap it up by saying a couple of things. First, again, like I said,
Sorry.
Bray Wyatt, generational talent of his generation of professional wrestlers. And my one last thing where I will contend, I didn't think about this until as we were, I don't know what was going on, but it came to my mind when I said Terry Funk, even though he's not my favorite of all time, he's in my top 5, might be the best to ever do it. There's one more thing I'll attribute to him, and then we'll exit the show. But without Terry Funk, there may not have been a rock and wrestling era.
Yeah.
Why? Because Terry Funk was friends with Sly Stallone and recommended Hulk Hogan to be Thunder Lips. So there you go. Thanks, Terry. You did another great thing for fucking professional wrestling.
Which one though?
Yeah.
Which Terry?
And
Because if you ask Terry, brother,
Yeah, I'm sorry, Terry Funk. Yeah, if you ask Terry Bollea, he was in Wembley Stadium and healed a crippled child. But we're not getting into Hulk Hogan's fishtails tonight. That's not what this show is about.
okay. Can I say what I was gonna say before the fucking dude got shot in the alley?
Yes, make it quick. I'm ready to be done.
All I was gonna say was if anybody has any kind of like, alcohol dependency or emotional mental problems or whatever, just talk to your friends. Don't feel like you're alone.
Well, you're not alone. You're
Well,
not
I'm
alone.
alone.
Like Aaron said,
I have no
friends.
mental problems. I'm just saying, I know a person that's going through some shit right now, and I don't like the fact that he's going through that, and don't ever feel like. Never mind.
I get what you're saying. There is always hope. Trust me, you have options. If you need help, reach out, call somebody. There's help out there. It's always an option.
There is, and I'll say this. I used to drink way too much. And we would do this podcast until 5 o'clock in the morning, and I would be super stupid, sloppy. And I'm not proud of it. It's not fun. People think it's fun, but it's not fun.
No.
In the years since, I have cut back a lot because listen, like Aaron said, you have friends. I was able to do it on my own because certain people have the personality where you can step back and go, I have a fucking problem and I need to fix this, and then do it. If you don't, what you have is a support system. You have friends, you have family, you have people that can help you. You have people that you're not going to like what they have to say, but it's probably right.
Well, and I'm going to be honest with you real quick here. You don't need to feel ashamed if you can't do it on your own.
No.
That's the biggest issue is people feel like that you're not a failure. It's okay to ask for help.
And you should.
Yes.
Because there are people that are willing to help you and care about you. So I'm glad you brought that up, Aaron, because it is important. And it's also considering the fact that what was that first fucking trigger reaction that everybody thought about Bray?
It's probably a suicide.
The mental issues and all that. And again,
Are you Mark?
To the point where the family who asked for privacy had to come out and be like, hey, this is what happened.
Listen.
Right.
But anyway, we are going to sign off. I want to thank Kyle, Aaron, and Mark for joining me tonight.
Well, thank you.
for the special tribute to both Bray Wyatt and the legendary Terry Funk. They will both be missed. And we'll see everybody next time. As Aaron said, we have some stuff in the works.
Yeah, and
Talk about music.
Let's just play Hallelujah as we trail off. Because we can't play fucking Tootsie Goodbye anymore. Right?
I just got a Toots tweet in. It says that Hulk Hogan's the one fucking shooting. It says
You
here-
fell off. You fell off just
Yeah.
as you started to read the tweet there, Ernie.
Oh no! It just says that Hulk Hogan's the one that told Terry Funk to do the moonsault off the top rope.
There was a dime. we were
Well, you know something, brother.
we were in Wembley Stadium, brother, and there was a dying child in the back. And I said, Terry, tonight, dude,
I promise. this
me and
Hulk-
Jimmy Hart are gonna write a Ford CD anthology.
No, he looked at.
dedicated
He said,
to
Terry.
this child.
He said, Terry. I told that little Hulkamaniac that you're gonna do a moonsault from the top rope, brother. Are you gonna let this little Hulkamaniac down?
And Terry Funk looked at me and said, brother, even though you're the biggest Terry, I'll be the best Terry. We'll be nicer when Hogan dies. But until that happens, he's a fishtail telling motherfucker, and we will see you next week on the Weekend Wrestle Podcast. I think about the movie Big Fish when I think of Hulk Hogan.